So we're out here in the lovely state of Himachal Pradesh, and it's a beautiful day to go out riding. And here we have an equally beautiful machine to do just that. Now this is the new generation Triumph Tiger 1200. This is an all new motorcycle. There's nothing much that has been carried over of the older generation model. There's a lot to explain about this motorcycle, and I'm going to try to be brief and sum it up as best I can. So basically there are two families of this motorcycle. There is the GT and the Rally. So this motorcycle which you see before me is the GT Pro variant, and as its name suggests, this is the more road focused motorcycle, whereas the Rally, which we'll be riding later on in the day, as its name suggests, is the more off-road centric motorcycle. In markets abroad, Triumph has come out with 5 different models, but for India we are only going to get 4 of those models. We miss out on the base GT spec variant. Triumph basically with this new bike has been pretty vocal on calling out its competition in the form of the BMW R1250 GS. Now it has even gone so much to say that it has been based sort of on that motorcycle, but it is in fact better. So now we're out here today to ride both the versions of the bike to see just how much of that is true. So let's see how the day goes then. So I've just about spent half a day riding the GT Pro variant of the new Tiger 1200, and man, this bike just feels leagues ahead of the older generation model. So all new engine, new chassis, new suspension setup, everything is new. The T-plane motor, it has a new crank angle and a different firing order to the 3 cylinders, which sounds a lot more gruffer, and I feel it gives the bike a lot more character. But then if you're one of the sorts who preferred the smoothness and the refinement of the older generation model, well, you might not particularly fancy this motor on this variant of the bike. You will find it to be better on the Rally spec version of this motorcycle. Both the GT and the Rally variants of the new gen Tiger 1200 share the same spec engine. Now the purpose of the new 1160cc motor's firing order and that new crank angle is to give you that additional grunt low down the power band. So while with the Tiger 900, you'd have to wait until you cross the 3000 RPM mark for the fun to really start, this motor tries to address that problem. But it's still not eradicated it completely. There's a decent amount of shove low down, which is great if you were, say, to be riding off-road, because that's where you'd ideally require that shove. But maybe not so useful on the road, because this engine compromises on a bit of smoothness for that additional delivery of torque. This motor makes around 150 PS of power, 130 Nm of torque. It's all there to be felt, and the hydraulic clutch may take a bit of time to get used to. You might end up stalling the bike a couple of times, but you will get used to it, and once you get that under your belt, it's a breeze. Now, according to me, the most outstanding bit about this motorcycle has to be in the ride and handling department. So this GT Pro variant weighs around 245 kgs, and that's a good 26 kgs lighter than the older generation model. That's almost double the amount of check-in baggage that you're allowed to carry on a domestic flight. So that's phenomenal. And this bike is a lot narrower than before. It's lighter than before, obviously with the new components, the new swing arm, the new chassis, the new shaft, and it all comes together really well. Once you get on the bike, it's just so easy to manage. Taking on corners, it is just brilliant. It just feels awesome to ride, and honestly, you will want to ride this bike a lot more aggressively into the corners. It is capable of that, and there will be times where you in fact scrape the feelers on the foot pegs, and that's when you really are reminded that, oh man, this is not a sports bike, it's like you're on a big adventure bike, and that's really amazing in a way. Triumph Motorcycles has always been known to come out with some brilliant handling motorcycles, and with this new Tiger, the boys back at the factory in Hinckley have definitely worked their magic once again. It's a very balanced and composed bike, with the ergonomics being comfy and you feel seated within the motorcycle rather than on it. Take on corners at speed, and the bike fills you with so much confidence that you'll be going much faster around the bends than you initially thought possible. And the best part is, you don't really have to move around the seat much to do this. Just lean into the corner, and this kitty shows that she's got a serious set of claws on her, but she's been well trained. Overall, the Tiger 1200 feels much like the smaller Tiger 900 just by going on its weight and how much effort you'll have to put into riding it. But this bike comes with just about a 10% increase in weight over the 900. But then again, you get the additional power, torque, and features, and of course, the lower maintenance cost due to the shaft drive. So it all makes a very strong case for itself. So we've spent the better half of today, the second half of today, riding the Tiger 1200, the Rally Pro version. That's the bike that you see right here. Now this model will set you back by 20,69,000 rupees, and it sits between both the Explorer models. One is the GT Explorer, which is the more road focused motorcycle, and the other is the Rally Explorer, the more off-road focused motorcycle, but with additional accessories and features as well. Now, after riding this motorcycle for half a day, man, this thing is just so easy to ride. Like the GT, it's so well balanced, so composed, off-road focused. So you have the 21 up front, 18 at the rear, and yes, you have the additional suspension travel, 20 mm, which is over the GT model. So that bike gets around 200 mm of suspension travel. This one has 220 mm. And of course, the Showa electronically adjustable system works perfectly well. You also have the additional off-road riding setting, Off-Road Pro, which allows you to tweak around and find your zone. So that as well, it works really well in this favor. So overall, this bike is just so much better over the older model because of the way it handles, the way its nature in general. And yes, that weight difference, it's so telling off the road. Now, whether this bike is actually better than the R1200, the R1250 GS, well, to be honest, we've just ridden it for half a day, and I can't really conclude over that right now. But have to have another session riding both bikes back to back to really tell on that. But as of now, man, this bike is just one level or two levels up over the older model, so it really makes a strong case for itself. The motor never fails to deliver on excitement. There's oodles of power on tap, and it won't be long before you're hitting the trails with confidence and serious momentum. Another thing that deserves a mention are the brakes on this thing, which are just insane. There's great amount of feedback from the levers, and it's not just the way the ABS is configured, but even with the system off in off-road pro mode, just so reliable even over the choppy stuff. And the manner in which they function feels almost unbelievable. This new breed of Tigers aren't as broad, they're a lot narrower than before, and in the ride and handling department, they simply excel. When the going gets tough, just stand up, grip the bike with your knees and go for it. You really don't have to think twice with this bike. It sort of assures you that if you were to just go for it, it will be there with you all the way, and that feeling is brilliant. Still, while the Rally Pro is great to ride over the rough stuff, you will have to be wary at low speeds because if you're going too slow, the bike can stall, and if the surface you're on isn't flat and you're caught off guard, getting your foot down in time will be a little tricky because remember, these are tall, heavy motorcycles and not the easiest to stand upright once on a tilt. The bikes definitely feel a lot better when you pick up the pace, not like they're difficult to deal with at slow speeds, but it's just that they require less effort to control then. Honestly, this new bike makes me feel like riding the older one was trying to ride an elephant. It just feels so advanced, so user-friendly, but more than that, it feels rather effortless in comparison. But if your idea of living large and going big is XL size, you definitely want to go in for the Explorer spec models of the GT and Rally bikes. Besides having a bigger 30-litre tank instead of the 20-litre unit on the Pro models, those bikes get heated grips for the rider and pillion, a TPMS, Triumph's blind spot radar detection, and the Rally Explorer also gets some engine crash guards. Now, as it stands, the difference between the Pro and Explorer models is a good ₹1 lakh. And after looking at the price list for the BMW R1250 GS, these new Tiger 1200 models come with additional kit, and they are the more affordable of the bunch. So on capability alone, we'll have to ride both models back to back to really tell which one is better. And we hope to pit them against each other soon, which will be epic. So do watch out for that.